let's talk about the writing process. So you're a writer, and are you familiar with the state of flow? It's written about by a guy named Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi. It's called flow. It's that state you're in when you're performing at your absolute peak. Like time has no meaning. You're totally absorbed. You're totally engaged.
Yeah,
Does writing put you into flow?
it does. It's something that I've noticed in particular with certain kinds of writing. Screenwriting sends me into a rabbit hole, and I've now learned to make to accommodate that when I know I'm about to get into some revisions on a screenplay. I can't say to myself, I'm going to spend an hour doing this, or I'm going to do 10 pages. It doesn't work like that. I will, once I start, I get into something that, yeah, could be called a state of flow,
Yeah.
where I am 100% possessed by the characters, and the journey, and it's impossible. It's very difficult to step away from that. I
Yeah.
won't necessarily eat. I won't change my clothes. It's,
Yeah.
last days sometimes.
Yeah.
So yeah, and that is specific. That's particularly with screenplays, I've noticed. With journalism, I'm kind of relieved to take a break.
Okay.
I'll work on something, then I'll be like, okay, cool, I can step away. But with when there's characters in my head,
Yeah.
it's harder to step away when you're in the flow.
Now, characters that are fictional or characters that are real, or it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter if it's what I'm doing is basically whether it's a story based on true events or something I've come up with myself and created a world. I'm still the puppet master.
Okay.
And it's very hard to stop the puppet show midway when you know you're doing things that you're thinking several scenes ahead. And
Yeah.
if you stop the flow, you're going to lose that idea no matter, it's just a very interesting state of mind to be in. And it
Gotcha.
does not like to stop.
I love the way you described it as a show,
Mhm.
especially as a puppet master show, because to your
Mhm.
point, you don't stop that mid show. Like you have to
No.
see that through completion. Now, when you wrote Cherry on Top, did
Mhm.
you become possessed with Bobby Brown? Like, how did that how did that work?
So I did two books with Bobby, and the Cherry on Top was the follow-up, and the first one was Dirty Rocker Boys.
Yeah.
And both times, um, there was an element of being possessed, yes,
Okay.
in the sense that um, I spent a lot of time with Bobby. I
Yeah.
interviewed Bobby. I tried to understand her heart and her soul and the motivations for the various decisions she took,
Yeah.
while kind of weaving it into a story that followed a three-act structure
Yeah.
based on true events, but still following a dramatic structure so that a reader can enjoy it.
Yeah.
I have found whether I'm writing a story or reading a story, I tend to begin to subconsciously sort of embody the characters, and maybe even I'll notice myself behaving in certain ways in my personal life, in my regular life,
Yeah.
that are imbued with those characters. I certainly, after working with Bobby, felt empowered,
Yeah.
and she has a code of conduct
Yeah.
around how she is with men and with her girlfriends.
Yeah.
And I took that on because it felt very positive.
Yeah.
And so there is an element of being possessed. Absolutely. That's one way of putting it, or just being influenced by the stories that we consume. And I think that's part of the reason why we do it, why we write, and why we read. It's
Yeah.
because there's an alchemy that's happening. There's a shift, however long it lasts. Sometimes you can read something or write something that changes you forever.
Yeah.